Hello, BookTube. This is Alan. Welcome to Tag Tuesday. There's been a tag going around. It's has Steve Reddit tag. I've enjoyed watching the other videos and see if they can poke the bear a little bit and see if they can come out victorious. And I've enjoyed watching Steve's responses to the videos, and a lot of books I've jotted down to future buys. So let me try step up to the plate and take a swing at Steve's pitches. I have several books over here, a couple of nonfiction works, biographies, and a science fiction. And a couple of fiction. Let's start with book number one. This is Niall Ferguson's Colossus. It's the rise and fall of the American Empire. This book was printed by Penguin. It came out in 2004. It's interesting that I had walking through a half-price bookstore and went to the political science area, and I saw actually two of these books on the shelf. Well, not the same author, but they were printed at the same time. They were talking about the same subject, the rise and fall of the American Empire. And it just goes into detail about how America's way of empiring, of their moving forth from the very beginning of America and colonialism and moving west and then continuing on into the Philippines, Hawaii, and Midway, and claiming, and the author claims that that is dying, just like the Roman Empire and the Mongol Empire and other empires of that nature. What is interesting about this, when I bought the book, came home, there was a Foreign Affairs magazine waiting for me, and that Foreign Affairs magazine had the same topic. It was talking about the same current event, that the American Empire is in decline. The next book is The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog. This is by Bruce Perry. He is a child psychiatrist, and this just gives you details of different cases he worked on. One being the Branch Davidian children, before the government came and wiped that place off the map in Waco. This is by Basic Books. It was printed in 2006. The title of the cover, "The Boy Who's Raised as a Dog," is actually the one of the cases that he worked on. Child psychiatrist notebook Bruce Perry worked on. What it was is that a mother of a toddler left the toddler with her parents, and then she just took off. And so a year later, the boy's grandmother died. So the boy's grandfather had to raise the child, raise his grandson, but he didn't know anything about raising children. He only raised dogs. So he put the boy, his grandson, into the kennel with the other dogs. So when the boy got of age to go to school, he acted like a dog. He barked, growled, and bit the other kids. And it's basically what it's saying is that Bruce Perry is saying is that children don't bounce back, and they also suffer from post-traumatic stress syndromes. The next book is Henry Kissinger's Diplomacy. This is was produced by Touchstone, Simon & Schuster division. This book came out, let's check to see. This book came out in 1994 by Henry Kissinger. And it just goes through the different areas, the arenas of meeting with world leaders and coming to a diplomacy. It talks about Vietnam, talks about the beginning of the Cold War, talks about different diplomacies, Versailles Treaty, talks about different diplomacies. So that was Henry Kissinger Diplomacy. The next one, I was at a boarded bookstore, and I was heading towards the exit without buying anything, and there was this table set up, and I had books on top of it, and I went over there and looked at it, and picked up one, purchased it, and then left the store. That was about 6-7 years ago. And the book came out in 2006. Translation came out in 2009. And I still remember everything about this book. So I don't need to reread it. It's As God Commands by Niccolo Ammaniti. It's a winner of the Strayed Prize. And it's a very, very good book. The book is about this boy who grows up in Italy. It takes place in Italy, small village, and the boy father is an unemployed construction worker. His two friends, the boy's father's two friends, are also unemployed construction workers, so they need money. So they have hatch a plan to knock over an ATM machine that's in the center of this little shopping strip. And it's a very good book. It's I like the way the author weaves things together. And there's a lot of surprises in it, a lot of twists, a lot of turns. One of the incidents in this book, As God Commands, is when one of the boy's father's friends, those two have to go down into a sewer, down into a hole to fix a broken pipe. And so one of them is let down into the hole, and he's like waist deep in water, sewage, and he fixes the pipe, and he tugs on the rope to get back up. Well, then he yells and nobody's there, and he yells again, and soon it becomes, sun goes down, starts to become cold. He can't feel his hands, he can't feel his feet, and he doesn't know what to do. And he looks up again, and all of a sudden, it's the guy who let him down is up at the top of this hole, smiling, waving. And the guy just goes like this, like, get me out of here. And so the guy on top pulls on the rope. He gets the guy out of the hole, and he goes, where have you been? I've been sitting down there for hours in this hole. It's cold. And the guy said, oh, I just went to get pizza. You want a piece? And he hands the guy the box, and the guy just grabs the box and starts stomping on it with his muddy feet. So that's As God Commands by Niccolo Ammaniti. The next one is by Johns Hopkins University Press. This one came out and 2010. This is the King of the Lobby, The Life and Times of Sam Ward, Man About Washington and the Gilded Age. And this is by Kathryn Jacob. And it tells the story how one man harnessed delicious food, fine wine, and good conversation to the task of becoming most influential lobbyist of the Gilded Age. So that's King of the Lobby, Life and Times of Sam Ward. This next one Steve has probably read because it's a science fiction. This is The Last Hurrah of the Golden Horde by Norman Spinrad. Spinrad. S-P-I-N-R-A-D, Spinrad. And this is just short stories, fiction stories. It was produced by Nelson Doubleday. It was copyrighted in 1970. It's The Last Hurrah of the Golden Horde. This last book was written by Robert Louis Dabney, Doctor of Divinity. Robert Louis Dabney was a minister in the Southern Presbyterian Church during the Civil War. And I was telling Peg over at the History Shelf about this, made a comment on her channel that during the Civil War, before the Civil War started, there were a lot of denominations that split over slavery. So you had the Northern Presbyterian Church and you had the Southern Presbyterian Church. The Baptist Church split. The Methodist Church split over the issue of slavery. So, and that's what a lot of biographers who write about this time period, that's what they miss. They just say, oh, so-and-so was a member of the Presbyterian Church. Well, which one? North or South? And Robert Louis Dabney, and I have his systematic theology book somewhere. And this is his book, The Life and Campaigns of Lieutenant General T.J. Stonewall Jackson. This is illustrated. It's a reprint. And it was by Sprinkle Publications. It came out in 1983, a reprint. And yeah, there's a picture of Stonewall Jackson right there. And this just tells about his life. And it has different maps in it. Maps of the campaigns. And here's one that's just as Chancellorsville. Has a little photo. See if I can get this. There we go. A little fold out map there. And, and there's a lot of more fold outs in here. Maps of the Civil War. So this is Life and Campaigns of Lieutenant General T.J. Stonewall Jackson by R.L. Dabney. Illustrated by Sprinkle Publications. So that's my 8 books. And I hope I do well. And thank you, BookTube. And let's see how my turn at batted goes. Thank you. Have a good day.